will be start from 4:35 p.m. in Korean time. So all participants should enter the conference hall and sit down. Online participants, please be ready for the forum. 자, 안녕하세요 여러분. 2021 제5차 유네스코 학습도시 국제회의가 잠시 후 오후 4시 35분부터 진행됩니다. 자, 모든 참가자분들께서는 행사장에 입장해 주시고요. 착석해 주시기 바랍니다. 온라인 참가자들께서도 역시 모두 준비된 화면 앞에서 자리를 지켜주시기 바랍니다. In addition, simultaneous interpretation for Korean, English, and French will be provided. Please use the receiver if you need simultaneous interpretation. Channel 1 for Korean, Channel 2 for English, Channel 3 for French. Online participants could choose preferred language in platform. 아울러 본 행사는 한국어와 영어 그리고 프랑스어 동시 통역이 제공됩니다. 동시 통역이 필요하신 분들께서는 자리에 있는 통역 수신기를 사용해 주시고요. 한국어는 1번, 영어는 2번, 프랑스어 3번입니다. 자, 온라인 참가자분들께서는 원하시는 언어를 선택하셔서 통역을 들어주시면 감사하겠습니다. And also for the smooth progress of the conference, we would be appreciate offline participants could switch your cell phone to vibration mode or turn off the power for the event. 아울러 오프라인 참가자분들께서는 이 원활한 행사의 진행을 위해서 소지하고 계신 휴대폰을 진동 모드로 전환하시거나 또는 전원을 꺼주시기 바랍니다. To prevent further spread of COVID-19, please make sure all of the participants have to wear a mask. 자, 코로나19 확산 방지를 위해서 입장하신 후에도 모든 참관객들께서는 반드시 마스크를 착용해 주시기를 바라고요. In addition, we ask for your deep understanding that all speakers wear masks due to the disinfection guidelines. 방역 지침 준수를 위해서 발제자 모두가 마스크를 착용하고 발언한다는 점 깊은 양해 말씀 부탁드립니다. 네, 이제 곧 세션을 시작하도록 하겠습니다. Now we're going to start our session soon. 자, 여러분 이제 곧 오후 4시 35분부터 본 세션이 진행될 예정입니다. 이제 곧 세션이 시작되니까요. 모든 참가자분들께서는 자리에 착석해 주시기 바랍니다. The session will be start from 4:35 p.m. in Korean time. So all participants should enter the conference hall and sit down. 그리고 모든 연사들께서는 지금 이 무대 위로 올라오셔서 착석해 주시기 바랍니다. And all speakers, please come up to the stage and sit on the chair. 그리고 온라인 참가자들께서는 모두 준비된 화면 앞에서 자리를 지켜주시기 바랍니다. 이제 곧 행사를 시작하겠습니다. And online participants, please be ready for the forum. Okay, the session will be start very soon, so please all participants should enter the conference hall and please sit down. 자, 이제 곧 행사를 시작하겠습니다. 모든 참관객들께서는 컨퍼런스 홀 안으로 입장해 주시고요. 착석해 주시기 바랍니다. And all speakers, please come up to the stage and sit on the chair. 그리고 모든 연사들께서는 지금 무대 위로 올라오셔서 의자에 앉아주시기 바랍니다. 네, 이제 곧 저희 세션을 시작하겠습니다. 네, 모든 참관객들께서는 자리에 앉아 주시고요. 네, 원활한 행사를 위해서 협조해 주시기 바랍니다.
Thank you very much for your understanding and cooperation. We are about to begin.
Ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests, welcome to the 5th International Conference on Learning Cities. I'm Ju Eun-no, your MC of today's session. Okay, there are some people seated here and others participating in online. But today, beyond the limitation of space, we will share the various opinions under the theme of the contribution of global citizenship education to health. Okay, now I will pass the mic to Ms. Cecilia Barbieri, the moderator of today's session. Ms. Cecilia Barbieri, so are you connected?
Yes, I'm here. I hope you can hear me. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening in some cases. I'm here connected from Paris, so morning my side. And I'm very pleased to be with you today and moderate this session on global citizenship, the contribution of GCD to health. And we have one main objective in our discussion, which is really to consider, to elaborate on the concept of global citizenship and to discuss the relevance that it has to develop learning healthy cities. And we have, I would say, group of distinguished speakers with us today who will share their experiences when it comes to the work that they have been doing in their communities. We know that the global citizens are citizens who are aware of global issues, but also of their local issues. These are citizens who are responsible socially, who are empowered to be civically engaged. And I think we will have very interesting presentations. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists, and I also would like to mention before doing that the interpretation services are available in all the indicated languages and are available on all platforms. We will have a variety of languages spoken during our panel today. So let me just start introducing our guests. We have Mr. Apostolos Kalogiannis, who is the mayor of Larissa, and I think I can see him on the screen connected. And Mr. Kalogiannis has been mayor of Larissa since 2014, and he has initiated an important number of intervention and initiative linked to education, for example, higher education, urban mobility, etc. In 2019, Mr. Kalogiannis was also elected as a member of the administrative board and the executive committee of what is the Central Union of the Municipalities in Greece. Mr. Kalogiannis is a strong supporter of lifelong learning, and he will tell us more about his work in Larissa. We will have Mr. Francisco Gaitan Agüero with us, who is the mayor of Cantaranas, who is a municipality in Honduras. Mr. Agüero also has a long trajectory when it comes to the administration of his municipality, and he has been reelected to his position for a number of terms, which also shows the excellent work that he has been able to undertake in improving his municipality through a number of interventions, and we will also hear more from him very soon. We will have Mr. Nam Seo Ko, who is the mayor of the municipality of Yeongsu-gu, and Mr. Ko is also has an important trajectory when it comes to academia and the private sector. He has also served as a city council of the Incheon metropolitan city for a number of years. And he has been also mayor of his municipality for quite some time. He has been reelected also in 2018. So also a long experience to share with us. Then we will move on to Mr. Agiai Musaid, who is the vice president of the commune of Benguerir. And now we move all the way to Morocco. Mr. Musaid is the president of an association that is called RAMNA, and that work in particular to promote employment at the level of the province of RAMNA. And he will share with us actually an interesting experience that brings together civil society and a number of local stakeholders for the improvement of the area. We will then have our final panelist, who is Mr. Jabar Mahmoudi, who is the mayor of Bandar Kamir in Iran. And he will share with us a very I would say successful experience, and awarded as well when it comes to protection of the local ecosystem. And he has an interesting story to tell us about these the mobilization of a big voluntarism in his area. So I would suggest that we start. Our panelists will have about 8 minutes to present their experiences. And after that, we will have a space for a number of questions. I'm sure we will have a rich participation from all our invitees today. And so we will have some space for discussion and debate among yourself. So allow me then to ask Mr. Apostolos Kalogiannis, the mayor of Larissa, to take the floor. Mr. Kalogiannis.
Η ανάδειξη της Λάρισσας ως συντονίστριας πόλης της ομάδας εργασίας του Παγκοσμίου Δικτύου των Πόλεων που Μαθαίνουν της UNESCO για την εκπαίδευση στην ενεργό πολιτιότητα υπήρξε μια μεγάλη τιμή και αναγνώριση των προσπαθειών της πόλης για την προώθηση της εκπαίδευσης ενεργών πολιτών. Η ανάληψη αυτού του ρόλου...
There seems to be some confusion. The speaker is speaking Greek. There is no interpretation from or into Greek.
Σε συνεργασία με την άξια ομάδα της πόλης Γιονσού και με σημαντική υποστήριξη από το Ινστιτούτο Διαβίου Μάθησης της UNESCO, επιχειρήσαμε αυτά τα 2 χρόνια να δημιουργήσουμε τις συνθήκες για ένα γόνιμο διάλογο μεταξύ των πόλεων. Παρά τους περιορισμούς που επιβάλλει η πανδημία, αξιοποιώντας τις νέες τεχνολογίες, συναντηθήκαμε με πόλεις από όλο τον κόσμο. Ανταλλάξαμε καλές πρακτικές και μοιραστήκαμε τις σκέψεις μας για το μέλλον της δημοκρατίας και το ρόλο των πολιτών σε ένα δύσκολο περιβάλλον. Η επιλογή να προσπαθήσουμε να γίνει η πόλη μας μια κοινωνία μάθησης δεν ήταν τυχαία. Ήταν αποτέλεσμα ενός γενικότερου προβληματισμού. Πώς στηρίζουμε τους πολίτες και ειδικά αυτούς που έχουν πληγεί περισσότερο από την κρίση, πώς προετοιμάζουμε την πόλη για τις νέες κρίσεις που έρχονται, τι πόλη θέλουμε. Επενδύσαμε σε μια διαδικασία μετασχηματισμού και αλλαγής και διαμορφώσαμε κανάλια επικοινωνίας και συνέργειας ανάμεσα στις τοπικές αρχές, τους φορείς και τους πολίτες. Κατοχυρώσαμε θεσμικά το εγχείρημα της πόλης που μαθαίνει με τη συγκρότηση επιτροπής με τη συμμετοχή 80 περίπου φορέων της πόλης. Οργανώσαμε δράσεις στήριξης των ευάλωτων κοινωνικών ομάδων, των οικογενειών της πόλης. Αναδείξαμε την αξία της αλληλεγγύης και φιλοξενούμε στην πόλη μας 2.000 πρόσφυγες και μετανάστες. Γίναμε η πρώτη ελληνική πόλη του Παγκόσμιου Δικτύου Learning Cities της UNESCO, ανοίγοντας ουσιαστικά το δρόμο και σε άλλες ελληνικές πόλεις. Η πρώτη ελληνική πόλη που βραβεύτηκε από
It appears there are subtitles on the small screen, but it's much too small for the interpreters to read.
οργάνωση μιας επιστημονικής ομάδας, ιδρύσαμε μια καινοτόμα δομή άτυπης εκπαίδευσης, το Πανεπιστήμιο των Πολιτών, που έχει ήδη 2 ευρωπαϊκές διακρίσεις και χιλιάδες συμπολίτες στα εκπαιδευτικά του προγράμματα. Το ξέσπασμα της πανδημίας επηρέασε βέβαια αυτή την πορεία. Οι λειτουργίες προσαρμόστηκαν στα νέα δεδομένα. Πολλά προγράμματα αναβλήθηκαν. Νέες διαδικτυακές δράσεις οργανώθηκαν, χωρίς να έχουμε την όποια ανάλογη εμπειρία. Χρειάστηκε να εκπαιδευτεί το προσωπικό μας. Να αλλάξουμε πράγματα που θεωρούσαμε μέχρι τότε δεδομένα. Μια από τις πρώτες ενέργειες ήταν η δημιουργία μιας ηλεκτρονικής πλατφόρμας ενημέρωσης με τον τίτλο «Λάρισα μαζί» για το συντονισμό των δράσεων των φορέων και των ομάδων της πόλης. Πολλοί ήταν οι εθελοντές και οι τοπικοί φορείς που ανέλαβαν δράση για τη στήριξη ευπαθών ομάδων. Για παράδειγμα, μια ομάδα από απόφοιτους του σχολείου δεύτερης ευκαιρίας κατασκεύασαν μάσκες για ευάλωτες ομάδες όπως οι πρόσφυγες. Οργανώθηκε για πρώτη φορά στην πόλη ολόκληρη σειρά από διαδικτυακές συζητήσεις για τα αποτελέσματα της πανδημίας σε τομείς της καθημερινότητας. Οργανώσαμε δράσεις για την υγιή πόλη. Διαδικτυακά προγράμματα για στήριξη της τρίτης ηλικίας, όπως προγράμματα γυμναστικής, εκμάθησης χωρών Λάτιν, αλλά και θεατρικής παιδείας. Διαδικτυακές σχολές γονέων για τις οικογένειες της πόλης. Η Λάρισα ήταν η μόνη ελληνική πόλη.
Online parenting schools. Larissa was the only Greek city that had a learning cycle for hundreds of teachers to strengthen distance learning international with the development of critical thinking. Amidst the difficult conditions of the pandemic, we gave a voice to our young people, creating a municipal youth council, in which dozens of youth organizations and institutions currently participate. And of course, in November 2020, we co-organized with Yansu and with the valuable support of UNESCO's Institute for Lifelong Learning, the international online conference entitled Strengthening the Education of Active Citizens at All Levels. How do we proceed? Climate change is now plain to see. Many of our fellow citizens have been marginalized once again by the economic crisis. Phenomena of racism and xenophobia are increasing. There are issues with democracy and the citizens participating in it. We have now entered a new era. Global dialogue is now possible and the way cities function is reviewed. Historically, the city's function is intertwined with the formation of human relations. Many citizens around the world now realize the urgent need for citizen education. In order to help the citizens perceive this public space differently, for example, we need to distance cars away from our city centre. That's aiming to make them more sustainable and healthy, resilient to new crises. In Larissa, our course is clear. We invest in mild forms of energy to solve issues concerning our water supply and lighting and smart parking systems, all tangible examples of a city of the future. In the last 5 years, we've been developing more than 25 kilometers of bicycle lanes and soft traffic roads, thus increasing bicycle traffic, and encouraging particularly young people to use them as their main means of transportation. We promoted the city's shift to sustainable mobility policies. We came into conflict with traditional beliefs and attitudes of citizens and many outdated car use enhancement policies. We have developed educational programs for traffic education, starting from kindergartens and schools. And we are working to shape the terms of a democratic public debate with the participation of various citizens and institutions. Things are not easy. Learning cities are called upon today to promote active citizenship, transforming local communities and citizens. In Larissa, we often say that the city is first and foremost its people. Ensuring democracy is the biggest challenge that we will face in the future. And it depends on education, humanitarian values, and the way we learn to talk about the common good. We must continue the work we started to build a peaceful, democratic, and sustainable world.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalogiannis. We experienced, I think some of you we experienced some challenges with the interpretation at the beginning, but that was sorted out. So thank you very much to the interpreter and the technicians. And I understand the presentation will also be shared. However, just to highlight a couple of things, I think Mr. Kalogiannis highlighted very importantly the space and the appropriation of the public space that was given in Larissa and the role of young people. You rightly mentioned the biggest challenge that one of the biggest challenges that we are facing is also to ensure, to maintain democratic values, democratic environment. And, you mentioned the voice that you have been giving to young people. We know from some of our latest survey that were conducted that the trust of young people in public institutions is also on the decrease. And I think we should really ask ourselves why and how this can be addressed. So thank you for the interesting example and experience that you shared with us. Let me now move on to Mr. Francisco Gaitan Agüero, who is the mayor of Cantaranas in Honduras. I think Mr. Agüero is with us. Mr. Agüero.
Sí, muy buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Yes, good afternoon. I am the mayor of the municipality of Cantaranas. I have fulfilled 4th terms of office and we are hoping to get a 5th. This is a municipality in Honduras, in Central America. It's known as the selfie city in Central America. Why the selfie city? We have made of the walls of Cantaranas a place to go and take pictures, take selfies, to keep fond memories of this municipality. We are also, of course, doing more than this. We are supporting the local economy. To give you the context, let me state that our vision of Cantaranas as a city of learning is to transform it into a place where citizens have inclusive spaces throughout their lives that can help us to develop the municipality. Our municipal association of Cantaranas has set up a development plan for the municipality where learning offers opportunities in formal education, but also in technical education, capacity building, entrepreneurship, and cultural growth, as well as community resilience. The support of formal education to improve the level of schooling in our city is part of our effort, but we also wish to promote inclusion and well-being lifelong for educational fairness, entrepreneurship, sustainability and resilience, and artistic growth, as well as growth in leisure and cultural activities. Let me tell you more about the progress made over the period of 2020 and 2021 as a learning city. Our first point is educational fairness and entrepreneurship. We have here made progress by the creation of the organization ASEMACA, which organizes the communities of micro-entrepreneurs in our city, which provides capacity building for them. We also have an alliance with JICA from Japan and the Sugar Foundation, which is one of the local productions, for capacity building in digital marketing for entrepreneurs. We are working on digital marketing because in the new era and with the pandemic, we have really had to move to a digital world. Sustainability and resilience is our second theme. And here we have developed a fast guide of prevention of COVID-19 through the OVAP committee with China, Taiwan, and for the various types of activities of the municipality. We also have ongoing capacity building for prevention of COVID-19 and other diseases that also occur within our municipality. We have ongoing capacity building. We have set up institutional committees with the municipality, the local authorities, and with also the Ministry of Public Health. In the field of the arts, leisure and culture, we have held a third symposium of sculpture and a festival of book walls, that is to say, on our walls in Cantaranas, we not only have pictures, we also have education. So the book wall is a book that uses the walls of the houses in Cantaranas to express live what is in the book. And one of the famous examples that we have is The Little Prince, with the main characters in the book represented on the walls. We also have, apart from that symposium and festival, we have also launched a municipal workshop school of arts with direct workshops to work stone, and we are working for sculpture, in particular stone sculpture, to develop in our country the greatest sculpture park. And we have launched ASEMACA to gather small and micro entrepreneurs. We look for alliances with development partners. And we have here NGOs, we have embassies, we have external cooperations. We've also set up commercial and cooperation links, carried out capacity buildings for members and customers. And we also have a contribution of local government for learning activities. We have here an example of capacity building in digital marketing by the OVOC Committee for micro entrepreneurs. This is an example of explanation of the global digital market, how to manage social networks, promotion strategies. We also have use and donation of technological devices. All participants were given a device so that they could carry out their own digital marketing. We also had capacity building with regard to ongoing self-assessment methods, and as also in the statistical management of customers. Fast guides for COVID prevention. This was very important. We wanted to reintegrate our entrepreneurs and micro-entrepreneurs to local development through their business activities. And in order to do this, we developed this fast guide on government norms for COVID-19 prevention. We believe that behind each problem, there is an opportunity. And in Cantaranas, we have found that through this epidemic of COVID-19, we have seen the development of many situations that have led us to reinvent ourselves, which is important because we were in our comfort zone and the COVID turned up to wake us up and say, Cantaranas people, you need to reinvent yourselves. So the implementation of these fast guides were also important to reopen our economies. We couldn't stay in permanent lockdown due to COVID-19. And we also had a reservation of part of our income and biosecurity equipments for entrepreneurs themselves, as well through the thanks to various international organizations that provided us with personal protection equipment. This was an example of the sculpture symposium. These were stone sculptures that were just abandoned, lying around, and this has generated not only a recovery, an economic recovery, but also education. Here you have murals, also with an educational message. We have an investment in education, health, and entrepreneurship throughout the 2 years, 2020-2021, of over $500,000, and we also have encouragement for artistic growth of over $100,000 throughout 2020 and 2021. Investing in education, resilience, and culture generates identity and trust among our citizens, which leads to an atmosphere of stability for entrepreneurship and development throughout the city. This is something that I have wished to contribute with all of you. But I also wanted to say that we are convinced that an educated Cantaranas is less susceptible to disinformation. And this is why we will continue to encourage learning, because Cantaranas is worth it. And when we say that Cantaranas is worth it, it's because we need to invest in health, in education, and entrepreneurship so that we can improve the lives of our citizens. Thank you very much indeed. And I hope to see you soon in my city. I would not want any of you to leave this world without having visited us first in Cantaranas. Cantaranas is worth it. Thank you.
Bien, muchísimas gracias, señor Agüero, el alcalde
Thank you
de
very much,
Cantaranas.
Monsieur Aguera,
Y
Mayor of
seguramente
Cantaranas.
aceptaremos la invitación de visitar.
I'm sure we'd be delighted to accept your
Um,
invitation whenever possible.
And well, thank you. I think you really touch upon some very critical issues in your presentation and in what you showed. It was undertaken also to as response, right, to this COVID crisis. And I believe, with your pillar of investing in education, in resilience and culture, I think you really show that you are actually putting very strong foundations for a brighter future for the municipality. Investing so much in culture, I think it's also we have seen actually. It's very important when it comes to strengthening the resilience of people. It is very important for the mental health and the well-being. And I think we had a lot of evidence also during this past year and a half of COVID pandemic. So thank you once again. Let me now pass the floor to Mr. Nam Seok Ko, who is the mayor of the municipality of Yeonsu-gun in Korea. Mr. Ko, are you with us?
예,
Good.
안녕하세요. 연수구청장 고남석입니다. 이 자리에
Good
함께
afternoon. I am the mayor of Yeonsu-gu, and it's a great honor for me to be with you today. And I'd like to thank all the participants at this event for giving me this opportunity. It's, as I said, a great pleasure and honor for me to address these important issues today. Let me first give you a quick introduction to the city of Yeonsu, and then I'll talk about what's been happening with the pandemic here in Korea. The city of Yeonsu is on the west coast of South Korea. Every year, 10,000 people come to the town that is a historic city that bravely looks forward. We have 18,000 foreign residents living in the city. For 54% of those come from what is called Koryo, that's to say the Korean diaspora, spread throughout parts of Russia. As you all know, last year, we had to deal with an unprecedented crisis because there were many people who were impacted by the pandemic, and unfortunately, many people died. Economically speaking, the forecasts looked very negative, very poor, and the pandemic spread confusion throughout the whole of the world's population, worsening existing problems, whether they be societal problems or problems of equity. Nonetheless, we have tried to bravely face up to this crisis. South Korea brought in measures such as distancing, mask wearing, and there was a major vaccination program that was rolled out. Most of the Korean population bought into this program. There was very active participation by citizens, and it's not just because it was ordered by the government. It's because people have a very strong sense of citizenship. That's to say that people in Korea thought it was in everyone's interest to stick to the health rules. It was about protecting the common good and services to others. This is what underpins the 1,000-year-old attitude of Korean society. And I think this also connects with universal values that we have seen at work during the management of this crisis. So citizens played a very strong and leading role. City of Yeonsu brought in an information site providing accurate information to our citizens. And we tried out 3 projects that I will report on today. The first was in the form of a platform providing information on the pandemic, whereby people could be given accurate data and information. Through this platform, we have been able to find out exactly what was going on in 5 different languages. Then there was another project, a disaster-resistant village, whereby our citizens were able to learn how to strengthen community resilience, and emergency management systems were set up to deal with this pandemic on the ground. For example, it enabled us to distribute large numbers of masks. Now, like with other pandemics, it was the most vulnerable members of our population that were hit worst. The Korean population living in Goryeo moved to other cities, so we set up programs to support the integration of the diaspora that returned to the country, and our project helped them to manage this situation and deal with this unprecedented pandemic. We also implemented immigrant support initiatives, providing them with masks and meals, etc., telling them how to take care of themselves and their neighbors in the world. And it was really in this order. We first had to take care of ourselves and then our neighbors, and then together we could take care of everybody. We conducted a survey of over 10,000 people to gauge the effectiveness of this project. And the response was that thanks to all this learning and information, resilience was improved, well-being was improved, proving that citizens participating actively in learning actually contribute to a resilient society. With these examples that I've just shown you, we can say that lifelong learning is a driving force for healthy cities. Cities themselves can drive learning by citizens, as has been the case so far. We are going to work together to overcome problems in the future. The city of Yunsu, for 18 months throughout this COVID-19 crisis, has organized itself so that we could identify musical talents among our citizens, leading to concerts on people's balconies and going from house to house, visiting people who were isolated, raising their spirits. It was a very moving moment for our citizens and neighbors because it showed the strength of our population in coming together to solve the problem. And each individual citizen made a contribution. And this is what provided us with a stable platform for a better future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks to you, Mr. Ko, for this excellent example, I would say, of how you, through lifelong learning, actually, you really strengthen your solidarity, right? And I can see also the the role actually of proper information, right, in ensuring safety and health. We have seen, unfortunately, throughout this crisis, the we will say enormous increase in misinformation and disinformation, especially online. So I believe this type of example and experience, where there is also so much focus on providing proper information to the population is very important. And I can also appreciate the role of the arts and culture, as from the previous speaker, in strengthening, in building resilience, and really to strengthen this sense of solidarity and empathy. So congratulations again. Let me now give the floor to Mr. Hadjai Moussaid, who is the Vice President of the Commune of Benguerir in Morocco. Mr. Moussaid, are you with us?
Merci, Madame Cecilia. Bonjour.
Thank you, Celia. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are. Mayors with us here today and those following us online. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to be with you here today, taking part in this 5th International Conference on Learning Cities. And it's a great honor for me to be able to make this presentation to you. Now, before I start, let me say something about Benguerir. It is a city in Morocco, somewhere near the center of the country. Its population is over 100,000. It has surface area of 55 square kilometers. It's close to Marrakesh, a very well-known tourist destination, and that's 70 kilometers from Marrakesh and 170 kilometers from Casablanca. In recent years, the city has grown at a fast pace compared with similar sized cities. There was a major development program that was launched involving reorganization of many of the city's districts. There was the Mohammed VI Green City, based on various universities and the Green Energy Park, for example. The Green City project is about sustainable development, environmental protection in line with the IND standards. It's a modern form of exemplary urban development and growth. And it sends out a message of solidarity and social integration. It should also be noted that in parallel with this, there was strong dynamic in civil society in various areas, supported by INDH, the Human Development National Programme. Among the key projects, we have the University of Mohammed VI Polytechnique, which specializes in social sciences, business and management. Also have our Lycée d'Excellence, which is a school for social excellence. And this lycée currently hosts over 16,000 pupils. We also have a coding school, 1337. This is the first high-level IT training school in Morocco. It works 24/7, accessible to all, and leads to IT qualifications. We also have a solar energy development project called Green Energy Park. As I was saying, we have this green city project covering 1,000 hectares. There are other training centers apart from academic ones. We have one for sport and athletics, in particular athletics, but sport in general also. We have a data center as well, housing Africa's most powerful computer. It covers 2,000 square meters. And it can deliver over 3 billion operations per second. We have connections with motorways, rails, and highways. so we are well connected with the rest of the country. Question here is, how can cities mobilize population that become world or global citizens? Adopting a strategy based on participatory approach has meant that we can ensure involvement of civil society and local partners in the various stages of the development program, from diagnostics through to assessment. We sent out calls for candidates every year. So they went to associations so they contribute to financing culture, education, and health projects. There's also the capacity building for associations through the contribution of local partners led by the OCP group, which is an industrial mining group located in our cities. We've encouraged associations to take part in local, regional, national forums, and also launched the Act for Community program that was done by the OCP group. I mentioned the dynamic of our civil society. Here you have some visuals of that. Top left, you can see the center used by an association of women. As I said, we have a participatory approach involving all of civil society and partners, where we talk about the issues confronted by our city. We have training courses, workshops, and try to get people involved in everything relating to the city's development. As for the Act for Community project, it is what we call Made in Morocco by the OCP group. It's a program which encourages citizens' initiatives through their support to social and territorial innovations that create value for the group and its ecosystem. It promotes the adoption of a new dynamic for the way it works, based on openness and citizen proximity. Act for Community invites all those involved to get involved in citizen actions with a strong impact, and the opportunity of getting involved in projects supporting the community. Each collaborator in the group can devote up to 4 weeks, which are paid every year, so as to provide volunteer support to these key projects, whether they be involving our business or our local associations. So as for the pandemic, question is, to what extent were our actions initiatives relative, whether they be top down or bottom up? The associations Mingaria and Act for Community are more mobilized than ever and based on solidarity, health, and education, working in particular with the vulnerable populations. There's the Red Crescent that has been involved. That's an association whereby volunteers help the weakest member of our societies in crises such as COVID-19. In education, we have had volunteers working in first aid, providing psychological and social support, which is very important during such a difficult crisis. In terms of health, we've run awareness raising campaigns, telling people they should stay at home and take the necessary precautions. We have encouraged people to get vaccinated against the virus. We have had vaccination programs run with public health authorities, raising the awareness of students and pupils and the need to get vaccinated. So these were some photographs showing you what the Red Crescent does. As I say, awareness raising programs, working with the fire brigade to organize vaccination support to the elderly, etc. As for Act for Community actions during the pandemic, we can see here that 60 educators were trained Barad Hamna to build their skills in terms of supporting young people in their educational projects. We also provided school equipment for pupils, in particular from needy families. 84 excellent pupils in primary level from poor families were supported by this social inclusion project. So providing them with school equipment, tablets as well. And we also rehabilitated and fitted out health centers and dispensaries in Ramna to reduce the pressure on hospitals in the provinces around Brega. And we also systematically disinfected schools and ran awareness raising programs about COVID-19. Here you see some action for community photographs. We've also seen that the doctors from OCB, volunteers, were fully mobilized. There was a blood donor program. We also organized programs concerning feminine hygiene for girls, young girls in our secondary and primary education establishments. As for the lessons learned from all these actions, we would say that the role of civil society is key in promoting health learning. The engagement by private partners to accelerate and strengthen community resilience is key. We have to accompany and support decision makers so as to win the trust of civil society and local private partners. Thank you for your attention. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mosaid, for your interesting illustration of what the actions in your area. And it's interesting is somehow in all the let's say all the various components, right, that you mentioned. How you really built, let's say, on these three pillars of education, health, and solidarity. No, it's like you can see like a store that is very well balanced, actually, and it's really the basis. If we want to really come out from this crisis, and not only come out from the crisis, but to build a society that is really more sustainable and peaceful as well. When it is based on the value of social integration. And very interesting also this very strong participatory approach, which again, it's really interesting to see how, from knowledge, people also go into action, right? Because this strong network of volunteers that you set up, is very valuable. Now, let me move on to, from Morocco, we pass to Iran, where we have Mr. Javad Mahmoudi, who is the mayor of Bandar Hamir in Iran. Mr. Mahmoudi, the floor is yours.
Hello, good evening. First of all, thank you very much for hosting Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to be among of you, and you give us a chance to meet all of my friends after the long time. Thank you so much, and appreciate it for giving me a chance to speak in this great conference. I'm here to tell you a story of my city, Bandar Hamir, in south of Iran. I'm mayor of that city, and this city is a small city in the south of Iran with around 20,000 population. The city has a special ecological position, and it's behind one of the largest marine wetlands in the Middle East. the Huron Straits is about 100,000 hectares that's full of mangrove forest, and also it's a biosphere reserve. It's a UNESCO registered site. And all coastline of the city is under the protected area. And Bandar Khamir is oldest and the largest city and settlement next to the wetland and biosphere reserve. So the mission of the city is so important. We were looking for a strategy to use this very highlighted feature of our city, to use it, this great feature. Our solution was to engaging our people and involving them in the strategy planning and performing our strategy. The protection system, we are formed based on high public participation. This system was based on two main pillars: empowerment of people and raising their awareness about the valuable position that they are in it. With two pillars, we can get maximum participation of people in the society. We use a lot of tools, such as supporting NGOs, running events and festivals, and also having a lot of workshops and courses, and establishing a lot of centers to manage all that participations. For example, in supporting the NGOs, there was an very active environmental NGO, Bandar Khamir. We supported it, and it became shortly one of the most important NGOs in the Hormozgan province and in Iran as well. And in aspect of events and festivals, we defined a lot of festivals, especially for the city. Bandar Khamir is the center of the World Westland Day in Iran, and the city did it with those volunteers. And also we have a lot of UNESCO events, such as International Day for the Conservation of Mangrove Ecosystem, to make them awareness about the value of the mangroves. And also International Day of World's Indigenous People, about understanding about the rich and importance of rich culture of the people. Also, we have World Migratory Bird Day. It's a UNESCO event also. And making awareness about our children. It's so important to they familiarize with the environmental issues. The National Day of Child and Environment we had. And a lot of events, local events that we had, all of that events I shall mention, all of that events did with the participate of volunteers completely, such as bicycle racing, cleaning the beach, some traditional event, painting, and some sport festivals and such as, and extra. And in field of workshops and courses, we had a lot of workshops and courses for directly educating our people and increasing their skills to enter the society and having public rule. And one thing that I mentioned more and more is about SIPA Center. It comes from the Ramsar Convention concept, but we expand the mission, all the mission for all issues of the city. SIPA contains 4 letters. C, communication. E, shows education. P, participation. And A, awareness. The center manages all the volunteers' work in our city. And also we have another center for handicraft and for making souvenirs in an old and historical home in the middle of the city. Or another example is we make a very old and historical wooden ship, make them the museum for the people to have about the historical maritime museum. Through all of those activities, we joined the UNESCO Network Learning Cities, and it was so amazing and wonderful for our people to join into this valuable network on the world. And also we selected at the first national wetland city in Iran in 2019. But during the pandemic, what happened to Bandar Khamir? As I said, a lot of volunteers were around us. And when the pandemic appeared, the CIPA Center became a place to gather all the volunteers and making a campaign against the coronavirus disease. Shortly, the population of the campaign reached to more than 500 persons. And it was the largest campaign in Hormozgan province. But what they did, they divided into some groups, and each group do a special duty that they had. Collecting social donors is exactly getting participation, and also educating our people face-to-face, organization to organization, place to place, and also infecting the public surfaces, they helping municipality workers also. And the women, especially, the women produce masks and scrubs for the people. As you know, when at the first days of the pandemic, we couldn't find enough masks in the stores and in the pharmacy especially. The women produced masks for all people that they need. And also another example was the helping the clinics and hospitality to expanding the capacity, and also take caring of vulnerable people that may be damaged during the pandemic. The result was significant. Bandar Khamir was the last city in province that's affected by coronavirus. And also recently, just before I come here, the city became blue. It means low-risk city, the first low-risk city in province. Because of full participating of people in vaccination, you know, it's the point of making awareness of people, like getting the participation of them. When you trust the people, they trust you, and it makes unimaginable results. After the pandemic, right now, I hope the pandemic is finished, and right now, these volunteers help us to revive the society, the sections that's damaged during the pandemic, especially tourism sections. They help them to revival. But the conclusion is, and our experience in Bandar Khamir is to show how much is important to getting participation of people and having social cohesion to make the city more safer, more resilient, and have high ability to cope the challenges and solve them. Our motto is, we shall have global perspective or a global citizens, but taking the local actions. Thank you for kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahmoudi. So this was the last of our speaker, and I think of our panelists, and I think somehow he, let's say, well concluded this round of presentation, showing that the strong sense that all presentation have expressed that really more can be achieved by working together than by going it alone. I think this was certainly a sort of common message that came out. And I believe this really embodies the concept of global citizenship. We have seen that in most of your, in all your experiences, you had a strong focus on the participation of people, of the communities, in the action of the community, the focus on young people in taking up innovation, social innovation, territorial innovation, and therefore really being involved, right, in action that can have a high impact. I think we have seen the role, the key role of civil society, of academia as well, and how these partnership among the various actors at the local level can really play a key role in promoting health learning as well. The importance also engaging private partners, of course, which has an essential role to play when it comes to building the resilience of the community. And I would also say we should really acknowledge the role and the determination of the decision makers, right? In your case, to gain the trust of their communities, of their societies, to engage them, you know, to have all these variety of actors that we have seen on board. And so this is, I think, these are really the key messages and lessons that we are learning from your experiences. So we have clearly seen that personal responsibility is very crucial as a global citizen, but is alone, it is certainly not sufficient. And I think these, you know, we all know that the global citizenship competencies have now become very much an integral part of the education discourse, the lifelong learning discourse. And I think it's very clear from the debate today and these days of conference of the Learning City that this discourse should also extend to include global health. So including identifying global health within the construct of global citizenship in going forward, because this really can play a critical role in fostering, right, learners, I would say citizens who are lifelong learners, who are civically engaged and can really drive social change. Now, we still have 10 minutes with us, and all the panelists were excellent in keeping the time. So perhaps we can take a few questions. I have a question that we have received for the mayor of Larissa and for Mr. Agüero. And this is a question that relates to, that would like to know, if you receive funding from government for the recovery plan for your school system and to address poverty during this period, during this intervention. I don't know if the two mayors could take the floor, if the question is clear enough. Larissa and Cantaranas, who wants to start?
I am the chairman of the City Council, Dimitris Deligiannis.
Bien. So you
good
may
morning.
want to take up this, good morning, this question. If you receive funding from government for your plans, your recovery plans, particularly when it comes to education.
the government support, of course, cities, but you must know that in these 12 years, from 2009, we had a lot of crises, financial crisis. Of course, we have a refugee crisis, pandemic, and in Larissa we have the earthquake crisis. So they support us, but our aim is to have a participation of the citizens, to have a volunteer network, and all this with humanities principle of the principes, humanities of lifelong learning. This is not so easy. This is not. We must to educate them how to collaborate and how we have active citizenship. It is not so easy, but this is our main effort, and your and of a network of learning cities of UNESCO, the biggest help.
Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Deligiannis. And it's true, actually, we can see how Greece is coping through a number of crises, of course, that add up to each other. And so we really appreciate actually also your answer and how the need, right, of the local participation is important for that. Certainly, I believe while your appreciation for the Learning Cities Network, it's also important. This is really a community, right, of peers, of partners, if you want, in your local administration. So it's always good to have a community where you can share and lesson and find ways to address similar problems, although in different contexts, right? Now, perhaps I can ask Mr. Agüero, the mayor of Cantaranas, if he also want to take up this question, if he had any funding received from government, any particular support in addressing some of the recovery plans, in particular education, and in looking at the social vulnerability. La palabra está a usted.
Le voy a decir que el gobierno
Well, let me tell you that we did get support from the government, but not much. We had to reinvent ourselves and look for assistance from the international sector, NGOs and foundations. But what we did get is the permanent support of our communities. Cantaranas is the first resilient municipality in Honduras, and we were somewhat prepared already for what was happening right in the midst of the pandemic. We also suffered two major storms, which added up to the whole issue. But our educational centers in Honduras and Cantaranas remain closed. They're not open yet. So we have a great debt towards education. We already had a deficit in education, and I really cannot imagine when the school classes reopen next year, how we're going to cope. The government that I am leading, the local government, is really working hard in readapting our educational centers by providing energy systems for access to electricity, to have access to drinking water, but also internet communication, so that if there are hybrid classes, semi-presential, we will be ready. We haven't only waited for the government, because the government has given a bit of support, but not much. We have looked to strategic allies that we had been developing in the past, Spanish partners, Japanese partners, NGOs, foundations, and various embassies. And this is what helped us. We worked for this and prepared for this thanks to our community resilience program.
Bien, muy interesante. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. That's most interesting.
So I think we just really have a few minutes left, and let me just ask one question to our three other speakers to give them the last word. Mr. Ko, Mr. Musaid, and Mr. Mahmoudi. If you have to, let's say, give us one key lesson learned from your experiences with regard to global citizenship for health through this pandemic, and one lesson that you believe can guide your further action in the future, what would that be? Perhaps I can start with Mr. Mahmoudi.
Hello again. As I mentioned in my speech, that's the biggest lesson of the pandemic for us was we shall be together. If we be together, we will more strong, more flexible. As you know, when the pandemic appears and started 2 years ago, it takes sometimes the government manage all of things, but the local people can be flexible and faster. It's more important, and we can use this lesson for the upcoming crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's very true. Mr. Moussaïd?
Donc, comme ils le sont par rapport à cette pandémie.
Thank you. Now, the issue of the lessons of this pandemic in the field of education, well, I would highlight the important role of universities. In Mohammed VI Polytechnic University, which was in charge of preparing classes for schools, for students at national level. We also have research centers who participated in the preparation of many devices made in Morocco. So research is very important and can really help us to strengthen resilience to this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moussaïd. And can I end with Mr. Ko?
위기일수록 우리 정책을 담당하고 있는 그리고
In this situation of crisis, we who have political responsibilities must make the best of this opportunity, because this is an opportunity that can be transformed for everyone. For instance, I have here in my hand a packet of face masks. Initially, it was very difficult for us to obtain these face masks. And I think that we need to change our approaches. We built our own factories. And thanks to these factories, we created jobs. We strengthened our social dynamics. For each social enterprise, this enables us to work, to create jobs. We had people with disabilities participating in the production, and then we distributed the masks to vulnerable groups. So in that example, even though we are facing a crisis, we make use of our creativity. If that is supported by the leadership of our political leaders, that is highly important. And as I said earlier, we organized 100 programs of music on the balcony. All of the participants had their family, and of course, every time there was a show, there was a risk of contamination, but people wore their face masks, got tested, and this was done 100 times. And this was possible thanks to the love and sacrifice of all persons involved. So thanks to that enthusiasm and that sense of citizenship, we can mobilize a lot of people and we can move forward together. That is how we can overcome these difficulties. And I think that this has been a very important lesson for us. I'm certain for other cities as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I think these are probably the best words to close our session. And I think, we're coming out, well, we're trying to come out from a crisis. We have the Larissa colleagues there, if we go back to the ancient word, krinein, where crisis come from, it means actually taking a decision, right? And so crisis, we consider it is a transformation process where we cannot maintain the old system. And I think this is really the message where we are getting out of these panelists. I think you talked about transformation, you talked about creativity, you talked about flexibility and possibility of taking action and making a change when we do it together. And I believe the role of leadership, of an enlightened leadership and committed leadership that we have seen in all our municipality is critical. So I really would like to thank you very much once again for your time, for your wisdom that you shared with us, and thank again the organizer. And I think we can conclude the session. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks to our moderator, Ms. Cecilia Barbieri, and all speakers for a wonderful session. In this session, we talked about the theme of the contribution of global citizenship education to health. Parada's Thematic Forum 3 will begin at 6 p.m. in Korean time. We would like the participation of the attendees. Thank you.